Hi, it's Margaret, and thank you for joining me here on part two of our Winter Sowing Extravaganza. So, in the last video, all of this happened in one go, but I realized partway through the video that, yeah, this is going to be a super long video. So I decided to break it up. And if you haven't seen part one, I would suggest you go back, especially to the beginning, because there I basically will show you my entire setup. I was originally working outside, then it got really cold and I was frigid, so I brought everything back in here. So now I'm going to continue on with the second half. So let's carry on. Here we have some Penstemon, and these are ones that I have winter sown, and I got okay results, so I want to do it again. These are wedding bells. Oh, let me show you what it actually looks like. So there's wedding bells here. Next is Dazzler Blend. Here is Mystica. And lastly is Rocky Mountain Blue. And I did want to point out that all of these are different species of Penstemon. So when you have different species of a particular plant, one may work well, whereas other ones won't work. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. It might not necessarily be the method or something you did. It just might be that some are just easier to grow through winter sowing than others. I am going to be using these 2 by 3 inch cells, and I will be sowing 6 seeds per cell, and these are going to be surface sown. So I have 4 different varieties, so 1 cell per variety. I had a lot of fun growing Penstemon last year, and there are quite a few varieties grown from seed in my garden now. We'll see how they do over the winter, how they come back, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant, and I kind of feel underused, especially in our area here. I do have one that I purchased as a plant called Dark Towers, and that one has been in my garden for several years, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So let's see what these look like here. These are quite small. Okay, so 5 seeds per cell. I'll basically put 2 on either end, and then I guess 1 in the middle, and see how that does. Rocky Mountain Blue did not do well for me last year. So I'm wondering if I should maybe sow a few more seeds this time round. I think I will. So instead of 5, I think I might go with 10 for this one. The Dazzler, which is what I showed you the seed for, the species there is Barbatus. And the Rocky Mountain Blue, the seeds were more or less the same, and the species there is Penstemon strictus. This one is that I'm doing now is Mystica, and it is Penstemon digitalis, and the seeds are actually smaller. They look smaller than the other two. Let's take a quick peek at these. Oh, absolutely. I'd say, what, half the size of the other ones, maybe? Let's just be mindful here. 1. I think I will sow a few more of these. I'm not really sure what it is with really tiny seeds. For some reason, I have the tendency to think that they won't germinate as well, or I don't know. I mean, even though in your head, you know, they turn into large plants, when you're sowing them, they just seem so tiny. You're like, oh, how is that ever going to germinate? And so I tend to want to sow more of them. This last one also has really tiny seeds. This is Penstemon cobea, and that's the wedding bells. So it also has the super, super tiny seed. So I'm not going to sow 5. I'll probably sow, I don't know, however many that is. It's probably 10 in there. Now, oh, you know what I didn't do? Didn't spray them. Let's get some water on these. Just, again, make sure those teeny tiny seeds have some good contact with the soil. One of the other interesting things that I read about Penstemon, and I'm not sure whether this applies to all Penstemon or only certain species of Penstemon, but I did read, I believe it was the American Penstemon Society or something like that, that Penstemon seed actually germinates better if it's allowed to age at least, they say, 6 months, which is interesting because normally you're looking at things not germinating because they're too old. And in this case, you might not have a good germination because it's too fresh. So I am all done on all of the varieties that I have had good success with in the past. And now on to those that I am trying for the first time this year or that I have had kind of so-so success doing winter sowing. So the first one here are lupines. I haven't had luck with lupines, period, in my garden, and maybe my garden just is not hospitable to them. I don't know, but I'm going to keep trying because I love them so much. So this one here is called a sundial lupine. And then these are some super old seeds that I received when I was in Minneapolis from a gardener there. And I've been meaning to sow them all this time. And I'm thinking it's now or never, really. Because I've had basically no luck or very little luck, I think, sowing these in the past, I'm going to be sowing 15 seeds in each container. And I'm also going to be scarifying them with some medium grit sandpaper here. And what that means is basically you rub the seed on the sandpaper and it scuffs it up a little bit and it makes it easier for the water to penetrate and get that germination started. Now, this is interesting here, the one from Minneapolis, because she gave me some seeds, but on top of that, there was a little pod as well. So isn't that cute? So here's the seeds that came out of that, and they feel rock hard. And there's the little pod that they came from. I'll be opening that in just a minute. These are ones where darkness helps with germination, and they should be sown 1/8 of an inch deep. How many seeds are there in here? I don't even think I have 15 seeds here. There's 6. There's 8 seeds here. I think I saw this on Johnny's site, but they said to rub it between 2 sheets of the sandpaper. So I just kind of ripped this in half, and I'm just going to go like this. I'm not sure how well this is working, and the seeds are going all over the place. They're kind of rolling around. I'm not sure how well that worked, but okay. Well, I did it, so there you go for those two. I'm wondering if I just take the seed, can I even hold it? Whoops. And rub it against the paper itself. Oh, that will not work. The seed is too small to hold. So I'm going to take a couple more seeds and rub it again. They keep falling out. So 2 more. Okay, so put those in, and then these last 2. Like that. I'm not sure what this did. I honestly feel as if it didn't really do much. And here, let's open the pod and see what's in the pod. Oh, look. So in this pod, there were 3 seeds. So I'm just going to take those out. And this may all come to naught because this, these seeds are, oh my goodness, just like going all over the place. These seeds are super old. There. Because when I'm doing this, I'm technically, oh, you know what? I guess it is doing something. because one of the seeds disintegrated. So now let's do 15 from here. And I am going to do the exact same thing. I'm actually going to just do the lazy way. I'm putting all of them in here and just kind of rubbing them with the sandpaper. There. Okay. I think one of them fell apart as well. Anyhow, we'll see what happens, right? 1/8 of an inch of soil. And that's it. I have one package of Columbine here, Rocky Mountain Blue. Again, I think I had one germinate last year. So I'm going to put more seeds in and, you know, maybe we'll have better luck this time around. Last year, only one out of, I think I sowed 9 seeds germinated. So that's pretty bad. So, and this is a new, well, I guess it's not new. It's 2019. So we'll see how this does. I'm going to sow one of these 2x3-inch cells. Columbine is surface sowed. So I'm not sure whether I should just use up the whole packet or whether something just went wrong last year. I think there might be quite a few seeds still left in there. Let's take a look at Columbine seeds. They're kind of these tiny little shiny seeds. So I think what I'm going to do is also, I don't know, how many are in my hand right now? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, I don't know, closing in on 30, I think. I'm going to sow all of these in my hand. We'll call it 30 approximately, and then we'll see how many of those actually end up germinating. So this is an interesting perennial. It's called giant scabious, and it essentially looks like a huge, and I mean 7-foot tall, scabiosa that is pale yellow, and it is a perennial. I've tried growing it a couple of times indoors. I didn't have the best germination to begin with, and then the plants kind of died out and didn't end up doing much, so I'm going to try winter sowing them this year. The botanical name on this one is Cephalaria gigantea. I am going to use the 2x3 cell. This one you sow about 1/4 of an inch deep. I'm going to be sowing 15 seeds in here and see what happens. I think last year I tried 10 seeds or maybe even more than that, and I only had a couple germinate, 2, 3 germinate. So because the seeds are being sown 1/4 of an inch deep, again, I'm only going to put soil up so that it's maybe 1/2 inch or so below the top of the container. Now let us take a look at what these guys look like. Ooh, these are big. I had forgotten how big these were. There looks like there's a little bit of chaff or something here as well. It almost looks like a caraway seed. Okay, so I'm just going to basically put those 15 seeds, spread them around here. And now just top it off. No need for vermiculite on this. And there we go. So giant scabious, all done. These are Heuchera, and this variety is new hybrids. And again, these are ones that I grew last year only inside. I had 0 germination from them. And so I'm going to give winter sowing a go. I'll probably use whatever's left in this packet. I don't think there's too many seeds in here. Okay, so for the Heuchera, I'm going to be using one of these kind of big cells. These are about 3x3-inch. And these guys as well are surface sown. And because I didn't have any luck with germination last year at all, I'm basically going to use up the whole packet. I think I used about half the packet last year, and there are 50 seeds, it says in here. So this will be about 25 seeds that I'm going to surface sow in here. So these seeds are ridiculously small. I can see already. So it comes in this little bag, and in the bag, because these seeds are so small, it comes in a little wax paper packet. Now, I'm not even going to put them on my hand because it's just going to look like dirt on my hand. So for these, I think I'm going to use I have this little seed sower. I'm going to put these in the seed sower and see if I can just tap them in. I could, if I wanted to, use the toothpick method, which is the one where you have the toothpick, you moisten it, and then you just kind of pick the seeds, but I really don't feel like doing that for this. This is my seed sower. I got this thing years ago, and it has like all these little holes for different sizes of seed to come through. I mean, it doesn't have any hole. Even the smallest size is like humongous, I think, which is this one, compared to the size of the seed here. So I'm not even sure whether this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. Okay, I think I got most of the seeds out of there. I think. And I don't know if you can see them in there, just barely probably. I'm just going to tap it and then hopefully be able to kind of get a little bit of even distribution there. I can barely see them coming down there. Okay, I think that was it. Oof. Okay. Give that a little bit of a spray and then put the vermiculite on, and I'm just going to put the barest amount of vermiculite, and I'm using the stuff at the bottom of the bin here. That's super, super fine. Give it another spray. Done. So next is Violas, and I have 2 packets here, Delft Blue and Tiger Eye Red. And for both of these, I actually did grow some last year indoors, and it was, well, there goes my bag. It was marginally successful. I got a couple of plants each to germinate, but not the best. So this time I decided just to do winter sowing and see how it went there. So I don't know if I mentioned I didn't do winter sowing for these last year at all, just the indoor sowing. So these are sown 1/8 of an inch deep. Now in this case, the seed packet actually does indicate that darkness aids germination. So you do want to make sure that the seeds are nicely covered, but not so thick that they can't come up. So let's get going with these. I'm going to sow a 2x3 cell for each variety, and I am going to put 8 seeds down for each cell. Okay, so 8 seeds per cell. I think, I'm not sure how many I have here, but it's not a lot. I can relatively easily pick up these seeds, so I'm just gonna spread them out evenly. Okay, so again, I'm gonna do 8. And there's probably double that amount in here. And now I'll put that 1/8 of an inch of soil on. So I'm pressing down a bit so that I make sure that the soil is nice and not compacted, but you know, firmed at the top so that they don't get any light. And last but not least are Nigella. Now, these are ones where you can really sow them like poppies, where you sprinkle them on the bed, just on open soil in the middle of winter, and in the spring, you'll just have them kind of coming up on their own. I didn't get the best germination on a couple of them. I don't think hardly any of these guys came up. And these ones, the Midnight variety, also didn't come up that well. I did see, I think, quite a few of the Miss Jekyll mix. So what I decided to do this year is try winter sowing on these. Now, the thing with Nigella is it doesn't like to be transplanted, so that's why it's usually recommended that you sow it in place. I've never tried winter sowing these in an actual container. I'm assuming they'll be pretty small when I transplant them, so I'm hoping that means there's not a whole lot of transplant shock. Then I can also put them exactly where I want instead of sprinkling them on and some come up, some don't, some are here, some are there, that kind of thing. So I figured I'd give it a go and see what happens. So for these, I am going to do 5 seeds per cell. And before I get going, let's just take a quick peek to see what these look like. They're not too big, but they're not ridiculously small either. So again, just like the Calendula, just like the Bachelor's Buttons, the Nigella also gets sown underneath the soil. In this case, it is tiny seed, as you can see, so the depth is correspondingly small. So kind of like that. 1/8 of an inch isn't a lot, so. Oh, I don't think I'll be able to do 5 per cell on this one, Midnight Nigella, because I don't have that many. I just have barely enough for 4 cells. So what I'll do, whoops, can't pick that one up, there we go. What I will do is I will put another variety up here, and I think I'll do the African Bride because I think this one looks so pretty, and I didn't end up getting any last year that I could see anyways in the beds, so when I sowed them directly. So I'm going to try this. And there we go. And I think what I'm going to do, I don't really want to make another label for that, so I'll have this video as reference, but what I'm going to do to remind myself is I'm just going to take a little popsicle stick and just kind of put it here, and then that'll remind me that this one is different. So I'm not going to bother writing on it, because when you write on a popsicle stick and then it gets wet, the writing kind of just melts away, it seems. So just having the little stick there, I think, will be enough, like that. And that's plenty for me to remember there's something different there. So here are the bins on my deck with the cell packs inside. Now, I used to leave the bins on the deck, which gets sun for most of the day until it started to get warmer in April, and then I'd move them to a part sun spot. This worked out fine, but I have since read that putting them in a sunny spot can actually lead the seeds to germinate too soon. So what happens is that you get a few warm days, the bins warm up, and your seeds think, hey, it's spring, and they start to germinate, and then all of a sudden it goes back down to below freezing, and those newly emerged seedlings kind of just keel over. This year, I'll be placing the bins in a full shade spot in the garden until the end of March. The main point behind winter sowing is to give the seeds the cold temperatures they need to break dormancy, and they don't really need any sunlight until they are actually ready to germinate. And once it starts to warm up around the end of March, I'll move them to a spot in my raised bed area that receives sun in the morning but is still shaded in the afternoon. And once they're in the sun, I'll make sure to remove the cover if daytime temperatures get into the teens, so that the seedlings don't end up cooking in the bin. When choosing a spot for the bins, keep in mind that they need winter cold and moisture, so don't put them in a sheltered spot. Put them in a spot where they'll get fully exposed to the elements, although be mindful of how windy the spot is, because what you don't want is for the whole thing to blow away on you. The only other maintenance really is to check on them every once in a while, and I try to do that about once a week, and I'll water if the soil is looking like it's drying out a bit. Now, let's go take a look at the Calendula and Bachelors Buttons, because those are not in the bins. So for these here, I actually just put them in a raised bed. I put them right on the soil. I do not cover them with anything. This side here of the bed is west, and so our winds do come from this direction over here. So putting them up against this west side allows them to have pretty much sun for most of the day, but the wind doesn't end up knocking over the cell packs. So it works out really, really well. I've been doing this for a few years and have gotten awesome results, so no need to take up space in those bins. These just sit here until the spring, and then miraculously you'll start seeing little seedlings sprouting out of them as soon as the temperatures start warming up. And that's it for today. I will be making sure to keep you guys up to date on the progress and how these do. There's probably not going to be a lot to talk about over the next few weeks. It's just going to be a matter of keeping an eye on the bins, making sure that they are watered, that they don't dry out. That's about it. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you next time. Bye.